Welcome to Live from the Hive, the perfect companion for your weekly changeovers. Whether you're turning over a property, restocking supplies, or just using the quiet to reset, this podcast is here to keep you company. We'll cover practical tips, real-life experiences, and honest advice to help you run and market your holiday let smoothly and professionally. You'll also hear conversations with other hosts and industry experts, sharing what works, what doesn't, and how to keep improving. Just useful, down-to-earth content to support you between guest stays. In today's episode, I chat with Joanne Higgs from Our Place in Portland. After nearly 20 years in education, Joanne and her husband Dan embarked on a new adventure where they fell in love with Portland and the stunning Jurassic Coast, where they found a charming Victorian cottage in need of some TLC. They lovingly renovated the property to create a cozy coastal retreat, drawing on their own experiences staying in Airbnbs. Now they're passionate about sharing this beautiful corner of the world with guests and creating a warm, welcoming stay. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome back to Live from the Hive with me, Katie Bessant. Today I'm joined by Joanne Higgs from Our Place in Portland in Dorset. Joanne, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Katie. Thank you for having me.
So let's start with an introduction. Can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to starting your holiday let?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I worked in education for like 20 years as a learning support assistant, which I absolutely loved. During sort of COVID, things became very different as it did in most places around the world, and education became sort of a bit of a machine. So the pleasure was sort of taken out of it. Sort of during COVID, my husband and I were sort of looking at properties, sort of like taking our time, sort of going to auctions and looking at properties that we could sort of do up. And that was like what we really would love to have done. And as we came out of COVID, we found a property in Portland, in Dorset, which we went to see one evening and absolutely fell in love with it and bought it the next day. And that's how it began.
So tell me a little bit more about your property then,
Yeah.
and the journey with it.
Yeah, well, we bought it in 2021, and shortly afterwards, I gave up work permanently, which was a bit scary, but sort of try and dedicate some time into our project. It took a bit longer than we anticipated. It took nearly 2 years because there was a lot more work involved than we thought. It was a Victorian fisherman's cottage originally, and it had been sort of done up in the 70s, so everything had been plastered over or covered up, and we discovered a beautiful Victorian staircase that had hardboard covered all over it and had sort of 1,000 nails put into it. And we finished renovating the loft that had been started in the 70s, put in a proper staircase, and opened up this beautiful loft that you just see panoramic views of the Jurassic Coast. And it's just what, whenever I go there, sort of like go straight to the loft and just sort of breathe and take in the view. And it's just such a calming environment.
Yeah, beautiful location. And sounds like you had your work cut out. There's lots to do there to get it ready to be a holiday let.
Yes, it was definitely.
So what inspired you to do it as a holiday rental as opposed to sort of any other sort of strategy?
It was something that I've always sort of wanted to be an Airbnb host, which I'm sure a lot of people go into it thinking, oh yes, it would be easy and have a little holiday let and everything. But it was more of a passion for us to actually get totally involved and immersed in it and give like the guests like a nice experience. And because we'd been to various Airbnbs or that type of property all around the world, and you see some good ones and you see some bad ones, don't you? And we just wanted to have it, just make it a really personable experience. And so we put it on Airbnb, thinking, oh yes, it'll be fine. And then it's sort of like the passion really came through once we started getting bookings, and the reviews and the feedback from guests was just almost addictive, really.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling, isn't it? Making people feel welcome in a place, especially when you've taken it from a huge renovation project as well. Actually, you've poured
Yeah,
a lot of love into it, haven't you, to
yeah,
make it really
yeah.
special.
Yeah, we've got our heart and soul in it, and sort of like we shed a few tears along the way and got very frustrated at some things, mainly to do with sort of building regs and things like that. But know that it's obviously really important to make sure everything's up to scratch with building regs, with fire regulations as well now, which all came into effect just as we were about to put it on Airbnb.
Yeah, so got to get everything, yeah, passing the regulations and ticking the boxes, haven't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
So what makes your place so special then, Joanne? You've talked about having amazing reviews, and you clearly put a lot of love um, into hosting. What makes your place special? How do you make your guests feel welcome?
Well, the most the feedback we get from guests is that it's like a home from home, and that we've thought of every little detail, and we've definitely put ourselves in the shoes of a guest and tried to think of everything. Obviously, at the beginning, there were a few things that guests said, "Oh, it'd be nice to have egg cups. It'd be nice to have this. It would be nice to have that." And so we've added things as we've gone along to what the guests have given us feedback on. And I think that's the main part, is it feeling a home from home, and it's not a clinical space. We've tried to make it homely, and I think that comes across in the home.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, it's funny you say about the egg cups and all these little things. I always try and encourage people to stay in their properties
Yeah,
themselves and live in, especially when you're just setting up and you think of all those little things, or where to put the coats, or and
yeah.
just actually live and, and spend some time.
We've stayed there obviously quite a lot in when it was a sort of building site, and once it had been finished, and we had some friends and family stay prior to us sort of going live, just to sort of make sure there was no teething problems, and any suggestions of what we could add or take away possibly. We got feedback that way as well, because obviously we were probably a bit blinkered staying there totally ourselves, so we had some feedback as well from friends and family.
Yeah, that's a good idea. As you say, you can, um, yeah, some fresh eyes is always a good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
So obviously finding guests is a huge part of
Yes.
having your property. Which booking platforms have worked best for you? Have there been any sort of surprises along the way?
Well, initially, like I say, we put on ourselves on Airbnb, and we got a booking within sort of the first 24 hours, and it was all a bit exciting, but a bit scary as well. And it was obviously a platform we knew fairly well as a guest. So it was, and we were on Request to Book, and we still are on Airbnb, and we would accept guests and bookings, and it was all great. And then being on Facebook sort of host groups, we found other sort of websites, and so we ventured into Booking.com, which was slightly tricky. It wasn't as easy as Airbnb, and it was a bit more clinical, I think, than Airbnb. But this year we've got lots of bookings through Booking.com, and we had a trickle last year. We had a sort of a flow, but this year's definitely picked up on that. And we've also got our own website now too that we set up, and we've had some bookings through there as well, which was really exciting. And again, had to get my head around a new sort of having to do T's and C's for these bookings, and do those things as well, which has been exciting, but a big learning curve too.
Yeah, how did you go about doing that? Because there's a lot to do there, isn't there? Set going and
Yeah, definitely. I think again, being on these host groups and sort of like getting friendly with other hosts, it's sort of like that seemed to be the way to go. And it's sort of, I did dip my toe in to promote my place, so it was like a pre-formed website, so it did help. And I think with good photographs and background from the other listings, we sort of like put all the good things about it on our own website, and a blog which I've started, which creates sort of another stream as well.
yeah. And what was the sort of main push to make you create your own direct booking website?
I think to have people come direct to us, because we had some guests that had repeated their bookings through Airbnb, which was great. But they always said, "Oh, it'd be nice to sort of, if we could book direct and stuff like that." So I think it was that, and being in control of our own property, I suppose, and our own destiny in a way. I mean, Airbnb and these other websites are brilliant, and they definitely have their place. We wouldn't be without them. But I think, to sort of like showcase your own property in the way that you really want to is definitely the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're super active on your social media as well. So to have that avenue to promote um, your followers to
Yeah,
is good.
yeah, yeah. I think it's sort of a case of not putting all your eggs in one basket is definitely true in that
Yeah,
respect.
yeah, absolutely. And do you do any advertising? And you mentioned Facebook groups for hosts and sort of chatting with other fellow hosts. Do you do anything with Facebook groups and guests?
I sort of like put our own sort of like, not so much adverts, but our availability, if you like, on posts on Instagram and Facebook of what upcoming availability we have, or if there's particular groups that are actually looking for accommodation, for a certain weekend or whatever. And, sometimes I sort of scout through those and put in, we might have what you're looking for, sort of thing. Um, which generates some interest. I don't know if they've actually turned into any bookings yet. I think we had a booking off of Instagram from a family that found us on Instagram first, a message through Instagram, booked through Airbnb, and lovely family, and they said they would come back again as well. So social media obviously does work. It's just the plugging away at it, I think, is the thing.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't know what makes someone book, or you it's sometimes hard to track. There's so many lurkers out there that
Yes.
will never like a post, won't comment, won't but they're watching,
Yeah.
and then they'll go on and find your place and book. So it's all that kind of long game. You never quite know.
No, you don't, and it's sort of sometimes it's sort of think, oh, you're doing all this and for what? But then something happens, and you think, oh yeah, it does work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So running a holiday let is obviously can be very demanding, and I know you've navigated it while managing some health challenges recently. So how have you adapted your approach to make it work for you?
Well, as you know, we'd only been operational for about 7 months, and then I was diagnosed with breast cancer in May last year, and obviously our world turned upside down. We had bookings all through the summer from last year that I just said, oh, we'll just have to cancel everything and put our life on hold. Our little baby. But Dan, my husband, sort of said, we can do this. We don't need to cancel any bookings. We've got it sorted. We can manage it. And because I had done all the changeovers prior to that on my own and absolutely loved it, took great pride in cleaning and looking after the place. And Dan said he would take over, which scared the life out of me. And we went down initially, and I sort of told him what I did and how I did it, and I was a bit OCD with how I liked the pillowcases and things like that. And he sort of like, yeah, sort of like, yeah, of course I can do it. And soon learned that my way was the best way, even if it meant him getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes to do changeovers, and because he has his own business. But we made it work. We didn't turn away any bookings. We didn't have to cancel any, and I took a role just doing the admin and finding other ways to promote the business, which was on Instagram and Facebook, because I was pretty much stuck at home, certainly during chemo, and I felt I could do something proactively by sitting at home and doing those parts of it, setting up the website, like I said. And we actually, I was one day looking at been through Instagram, and Litter Free Dorset had this sustainability award program that you could join, and I thought, oh, we do most of that anyway. It was always very much our ethos was to be as green and eco as possible in our holiday let. And so I sort of looked through the list, and I thought, yeah, we can tick this, tick that, and we proved that we were doing all the things that were on the lists. And then they said, oh, well, you could add another part of it if you put up some nature things, do some nature things in your property. So we put up a bat box, and we put up a bee home, and put extra planting in for insects for the bees and for the bats. And so October last year, we got a level 6, which was the highest award for sustainability in Dorset. So it was a huge achievement. And I went to obtain the award unexpectedly with a wig on, and sort of do a little speech off the hoof, sort of like to all these other businesses in Dorset, which was exciting but so nerve wracking. But it's like that was our huge achievement from last year, and our award sits proudly in our home in Dorset, and sort of to show all our guests what we've achieved so far.
Yeah, amazing. That's an incredible achievement. Um, yeah, I didn't know that we were really are live from the hive with your bee.
Yes.
So what other sort of sustainability and eco-friendly things have you done within the property as well? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, of course. We don't have any single-use plastic. We have refillable toiletries, which is from a local pool-based company called Wild England, who is all organic, natural products, which are refillable. So we buy all the refill products from them and just refill and top up all the soaps and conditioners from them. And all our other products in the property are again refillable in aluminium bottles. And we have sort of, as I say, the bee home and the bat box, and just sort of like to try and promote local businesses and promote local bus routes, which we have in the property, sort of like to try and promote more eco-friendly sort of tourism once guests are in the home.
Yeah, it's becoming a big thing that's really, really important to a lot of guests. So, yeah, just doing these small things can make a big impact as well.
Definitely, yeah, especially being right on the coast, sort of like it's so important to look after our natural coastline and sort of keep it for people to enjoy it, as beautiful as it is, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, for everyone that listens to the podcast, I always ask, every host has at least one nightmare guest story. And when something happens, you just feel so alone. It's so rare that something happens, but when it does, it can feel really lonely. So, Joanne, would you mind sharing what your worst experiences has been and how you handled it?
Yes, we didn't have to do too much thinking on this one. We had a repeat guest that wanted to stay for a month, so we thought, yeah, that would be good. And they'd been a perfect guest the first time, looked after the home and everything. So we had them back, and they said they were absolutely fine. They didn't need any bedding or anything. We gave them spare sets of everything, and we left them for the month pretty much. We had a few little interactions via text, and that was it. When we went to do the changeover, it was a slightly different story. It was sort of, we needed to buy a new fridge because the fridge stunk of fish and we could not get rid of the smell. They'd broken lots of crockery and glasses, which isn't necessarily a problem, but we didn't know about it until we got there. So it was all a bit of a. They tried to replace some things that, to me, they just didn't go. So we had 2 days till our next guest turned up. So we had to go and buy a new fridge, buy some more sets of cutlery, and take some crockery and take some other bits to the property that we didn't know we had to replenish quite so soon. So that was our worst experience so far.
Oh gosh! And did you let the guests know?
Yes, well, to a degree, yes. We sort of said it would have been nice to have been forewarned of the things that were waiting for us, really. I know breakages can happen, which is absolutely fine, but it was just the amount of it and the fridge.
Yeah, buying a new fridge. That's
Apparently, he was a fisherman, so it was sort of a bit. The whole place sort of like lingered of fish until we got rid of the fridge, which was where it was obviously all festering.
Oh gosh, that does sound like a nightmare.
Yes.
But yeah, luckily all sorted with the new push. Yeah, Joanne, it's been lovely speaking with you today, and hearing more about your property and all your different initiatives. If you could give just one piece of advice to someone thinking about starting a holiday let, what would it be?
I think it goes on from the previous comment, really, that if you have a long term guest, I would suggest maybe just popping in once a week, even if it's just a sort of a ruse to change the linen or drop something off, just to keep an eye on the property, I think. And as much as a long term booking sounds good, I think just to keep an eye on and make sure that the guest knows that you're around. I think really that'd be my top tip.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Just keeping an eye and having a little excuse to go in. I know someone has a gardener that goes in and does stuff. So they kind of got to cut the grass, all that kind of thing, and
Yes.
just pop in and just check everything's in order.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a wise move, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your property?
We've got our own website, which is ourplaceinportland.co.uk, and again on social media on Instagram and Facebook, which is Our Place in Portland.
Perfect, Joanne. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been.
Thank you so much for spending part of your changeover with me here on Live from the Hive. If you found this episode helpful, feel free to follow or leave a quick review. It really helps others to find the show. And if you want more support with generating more bookings this year, head over to theholidayhive.com or search The Holiday Hive on Instagram for more useful resources, templates, and checklists. Until next time, good luck with the changeovers and keep doing what you do best.